Good morning, friends. Welcome back to She's At It Again. Today we are going to be making a homemade chocolate cream pie. And if you've ever had one and you thought, I wish I could duplicate that, well, today's your day because I'm going to make one and I'm going to show you how. And this is the old-fashioned kind. No Cool Whip, no whipped cream topping. It's going to have a meringue top on it. If you don't like meringue, if you're like me as a kid, I used to call it cow slobbers and just rake it off, then that's fine. It's just going to keep the top of it fresh until you do get ready to eat it. But go with me as we make a homemade pure butter pastry and then make the chocolate cream pie to go inside it. So we want to start out with our bowl. This is what we're making our pastry in. To that, we're going to add a level 1 cup scoop of all-purpose flour. My flour is organic. If you don't have organic flour, use what you have. I would say look into the difference in enriched and regular, just ground wheat flour. You want to stay away from the enriched. They've taken away the good parts. They've given you what's left, which is just carbohydrates. And you think you're getting flour, but really you're just getting the, actually they're not the best part of the flour. So, okay, enough said about that. 1 cup of flour, we're going to put in a teaspoon of salt. This needs to go pretty quick just because I just took my freezer and my cheese grater out of the freezer and I want it to stay cold. Blend your salt in just enough to where there's not lumps of it in there. You don't want to get a big bite of salt. What we're going to do is take our cheese grater. Like I said, I just took it out of the freezer, and I had the butter in the freezer too. I just put it in there about 15 minutes ago, though. We're going to grate our butter into there. This is 6 tablespoons of butter, and I use unsalted butter. I'll grate part of this in there and then toss it to coat those pieces in flour. I like this grater because it has this kind of this rubber covering to it, and the heat from my hands doesn't conduct into the grater part and warm it up. Okay, then we'll grate the rest of it in there. I just keep turning my stick of butter around because you get that one angled side and it's hard to keep grating on that. The idea behind a really good pastry is to get, that's my oven, it's now preheated to 425. The idea behind a really good pastry, good textured pastry, and flavored pastry of course, but the texture is to get butter in these little tiny pieces. You don't want it completely smooth and blended up like a puree in your flour. You want these little tiny pieces, almost the size, they used to say pea size. I say now more like the size of a lentil because more people are familiar with lentils because they're pretty small. So the half the size of a pea, a dried pea, or the size of a lentil. So this is what it looks like. So it's kind of a rough texture, a rough mixture, if you will. See if you can see any better on that side. So it's not completely smooth. There's my rogue piece of butter that jumped out. And this is why you clean your countertops really, really well before you ever start cooking. I clean mine. I have a bottle of just straight vinegar, and I spray vinegar on this, and I wipe it down before I ever start prepping anything. Okay, to that we are going to add 3 tablespoons of ice cold water. I've had this in the fridge. It actually had an ice cube in it that melted, and super cold water. And then to that, we're also going to add a tablespoon of full fat sour cream. And I'm dumping this right in the center. I made a little well in the flour mixture. Or a little bowl, if you will, in the center of it. And then we'll mix that all in. Let me put my sour cream back in the fridge. So I'm going to take my flour from the outside edge, pull it toward the center. So we're going to be mixing the water, the sour cream together, and then incorporating the flour butter mixture into that. Now at first you're going to think that's not near enough water, I'll just add some more to it. Please don't do that. This is probably going to be plenty of water. You just can't tell it yet. Give the flour a chance to absorb the liquid, and you'll do just fine. This is what they call a shaggy mixture, because it still looks like it's dry. But then when you take your hands and start putting it together, it holds together well. Now, I'm not saying there's never an instance where you're going to add water to it, because there might be. But give this a chance. Start putting it together with your hands before you add water to it, because you don't want it to be wet and floppy. And I'm not kneading it, I'm simply pushing it together into a single ball in the center of the bowl. Sour cream, although seems a little insignificant because it's only a tablespoon, it's going to give not only just enough moisture to it to serve a purpose in that way, but the taste of it is going to be unmatched by any other pastry you're going to make that doesn't have it in there. Now, you might find recipes that say add an egg to your pastry, and that's fine. Those work too. But an egg's not going to add flavor to it. This sour cream adds a fabulous flavor. Okay, once I get all this pressed together, move our bowl aside. And I'm going to put flour on the countertop so we can roll this out. Otherwise, it's going to stick to our countertop. It's a little bit drier than it normally is when I make this, but it could be because I tapped my cup when I was measuring the flour too. But that's okay. It's all sticking together and it's going to go fine. Shape it into a little bit of a disc from a ball shape. Otherwise, you're just going to be whacking it with your rolling pin and it's going to crack in half. The idea behind another thing about making an ideal pastry is you want cold pastry going into hot oven. If you've ever put just a room temperature pastry or even something on the warm side, like if it's a warm day and it's kind of humid and the pastry's not really chilled all the way, and you put it in the oven and you think you've got it up the sides of the pan, and all of a sudden the sides just start falling into the bottom of the pastry. That's why it needs to be super cold and the oven needs to be super hot. Again, I have my oven preheated to about 425. You can go up to 450, and that's not a problem. But you do need it to be hot. If you're making pastry to freeze or to use later, you can easily take it in just kind of a puck shape like that, like we were just flattening it out, wrapping it up in cellophane and putting it in a zip top bag, sticking it in the freezer or the refrigerator. And if it's in the fridge, you can use it within a few days. In the freezer, it can store in there for quite a while. I know when I make pizza crust, the longer it relaxes, sits in the fridge and just relaxes, the easier it is to roll out. So that may be the same way with pastry. I know I normally make up my pastry dough, cover it up, put it in the fridge, and then roll it out right before I need a pie. Now, theoretically, as a kid, I always thought, oh, they're just rolling it back and forth. Yeah, like in cartoons. Really and truly, what you're doing is starting from the center and rolling out. I can see little places where there's butter on this. Let me see if I can get a better shot of this. Can you see that piece of butter right there? That's going to be a good bite. That's the piece I want. Okay. Get any little stray pieces that have come apart. Now I'm going to put a little bit of flour mixture, or flour, not flour mixture. This is just flour. I'm going to put it in my pie pan. We're going to fold this in half, put the pie pan down, put it on there at the halfway mark, unfold it like that. And this is the part that gives a lot of people problems because they're like, it's going to tear. And it might. I mean, I've had them tear before, but these are so easy to patch up. This one just happened to not tear. I'm surprised. Well, I'm not really surprised, but I'm surprised because I had a camera going and people are watching this, and if it's going to tear, that's normally the time it's going to tear. All right, so we're going to take these. You want to fold it over, not below the bottom edge of the pan. You want to keep it along the top edge, and I'll show you why in just a moment. And I'm hoping you can see this well. I can't really tell. You know, I'm looking at a tiny little screen on a camera, and I'm thinking, they can't see anything. But really and truly, if you're watching it on a, television or a computer screen, you can probably enlarge it and see what you need to. If you have any little stray pieces, just stick them in here and just go on like it never happened. Because nobody's going to see it when it's underneath the filling of the pie anyway. All right. Press this edge down to where it's not making big wrinkles like that. See if I can get this closer so you can see what I'm doing. And what you want to do is by doing this, you're kind of feeling with your hands and making sure there's no super thick places in the wall of it, because that's not going to cook evenly. All right, now to take and crimp it, and you're going to be crimping over the edge of the pie. So I'm pushing in with this finger, kind of taking it, pushing down and twisting a little bit with my right hand. Kind of gives it, kind of looks like a rope design maybe along the edge. Let me turn this down so you can see more of what I'm doing. You're not needing to see me, you need to see the pie. That's better. Okay, you end up back there at the place where you began. Go over it one more time just to define that edge. And again, you're kind of letting it go roll over the edge of the plate itself, because that's going to kind of give it something to hold on to if it starts slipping down in there because of the heat in the oven. I'm going to pop this in the refrigerator for just a few minutes, even though my oven's preheated already. And I want this to be very cold. Now I'm going to take this and just go through the crust. And all this is allowing steam to escape from the bottom of the pan. Otherwise, you're going to have this big bubble. Now, I will tell you this. If you do look in the oven and go, oh my word, it looks like a turtle, and the pie crust is bubbled up like this, put on your oven mitt or take a wooden spoon, something with, you know, just a slight, nothing sharp, something smooth like the back edge of a big wooden spoon. Just reach in the oven, just gently push it down, not fast, just push it down. The steam will go through these little holes right here, and it'll be fine. You can tell I have experience at this. I've had lots of turtles from pie crusts before. Okay, I'm going to pop this in the fridge, and then we're going to put it in the oven in just a minute. All right, we're going to cook this for around, I think I usually cook these for about 10 or 15 minutes, but I'll look at my timer and let you know in a minute, but I'll let you see when it comes out of the oven what it looks like. All right, let's get our crust out of the fridge. I'll pop it in that hot oven. And if you like your crust to be super pretty, you can brush the edges with egg white, but it's not necessary. Just makes it look prettier. Okay, hot oven. I'm going to set this for, I'm going to set it for 10 minutes. I never even set the oven before. I don't know. I just smell it cooking and I know it's done. So we'll check it in just a minute and see what it looks like. All right, next step we want to do is get our eggs ready, because our egg whites need to come to room temperature before we can whip them to make the meringue. So we're going to get that out of the way. So first thing I want to do, I have 3 different cups here. One is to break the egg into, one is to hold the yolks, one is to hold the whites. I don't want to break the eggs directly into all the egg whites, because if the 5th egg that I break gets a little bit of yolk in it and I can't get it all out, then my meringue is shot. It will not fluff up like it's supposed to. That is one huge egg. Ouch. I'm saying that on part of the chicken. Good lands, that's huge. This is what a regular egg looks like, and then there's that one. So these are from my friend's chickens, and my friend knows them by name, so she'd probably tell you which one laid that egg. And they're so beautiful, and these are absolutely delicious. I went through, well, for my childhood, we had fresh chicken eggs when I was younger, and then later on, you know, you don't notice it as a teenager or whatever because you're not paying attention to the flavor of eggs, but as a young adult, early married, I was like, I don't know, eggs are fine, I don't really care. But It's because I had started eating commercial eggs and they didn't have a flavor to them. But once you get back to eating eggs from chickens that have foraged and gotten really good nutrients in them, you're like, oh, yeah, I like eggs again. I'm good. So I do like eggs. I eat a lot of eggs. I like this little egg separator. I've had it for a long time, but it's just as easy to pour it in your hand and let the egg white go through your fingers and then hold onto the yolks. But that means you got to break the egg with one hand, and it might be a disaster if I do that. I've done it before. I don't want to look like I'm showing out because I'm certainly not a chef or anything like that. I think they must teach them that in culinary school, but we don't learn that in the kitchen. I usually try to break eggs into a separate container than what they're eventually going to go into anyway, just because if I get a piece of the shell in there, I can easily pick it out of one, but I don't want to be picking it out of 5 egg whites, that's for sure. Now, the egg yolks are going to be used for the filling, and the egg whites, of course, for the meringue. Okay, we're done with that. Egg yolks, this is for the filling. Egg whites, we're going to let these sit at room temperature for a while. I'll put the lid on them just because I don't want anything to get in there that's not supposed to be in there. All right, let's check on our pie. And this is what I'm talking about. See how it's puffed up there? All right, I'm going to get a spoon. I'm going to get this is my big Dr. Warnock spoon. He made that for me. He's a friend of mine, and he makes cool stuff, so he made this for me. But if you just touch the back of it, it almost looks like liquid. But just gently lay it back down, calm down a little pie crust, go back down. Okay, that'll calm down. About a little over 2 minutes left. So we'll be right back. We're going to get our pie crust out of the oven because it looks browned on the edge. I'm kind of disappointed though. Of course I got the cameras on. It's going to slump down on the edges. It's not going to look as good as it normally does, but that's okay. That just goes without saying. It's still going to taste fine. No, it's going to taste better than fine. It's going to be so good. All right, again, the center looks like a turtle. So I'm going to take the back of my oven mitt and just push it down. Okay, here's what I'm talking about. See how the edges sunk down right here? Let me turn this around. See how the edges sunk down? They're supposed to be way up here on the edge. So what that means is if we have enough filling, it's going to go over the edge here and in under the plate. But that's okay. We're planning on eating all this in one setting, so not to worry. This is not going to go to waste. It's still going to be fine. It's a crust. I'm not panicking. All right, we're going to let this cool, and we're going to move on to making our filling right now. Over here at the stovetop now, and we have a pretty good sized saucepan. Sorry, this is the one that's so shiny. When I turn the light's on, it's so reflective, and the person that edits my videos, it's my husband, he keeps saying, it's too shiny, we got to figure out a light thing. So I apologize for the shininess. I know it's there. I do. Okay, first thing we want to put in our pan is anywhere from 1.25 cups to 1.5 cups of sugar. Now, I am using coconut sugar. I don't want to use refined sugar because I want to eat some of this, and I don't want to eat refined sugar. So use what you have, and I hope it's something good. Make better choices when you can. And this is one of those instances this isn't necessary for, sustaining life. So hopefully you'll choose something a lot better than maybe what you have in the past. That's what we all try to do. When we know better, we do better, right? To this, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of unbleached, unenriched, hopefully organic flour. That's going to serve as our part of our thickener. Let's put those over there when we're done with them. To that, we're going to add 4.5 tablespoons of cocoa powder. I think I want my other, there's my other spoon. I have a slick one and one that's not slick, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and about 1/2. We're also going to add 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. This is non-GMO cornstarch. I have some organic cornstarch I think up in the pantry, but I just grabbed this one, and this one's fine for right now. So 3 tablespoons. This is the other part of our thickener. The cornstarch makes it thick pretty fast, but you don't want to keep cooking it or it loses its thickening capabilities. That's where the flour comes in. The flour is going to maintain that thickness. Even if you reheat this pie, it's still going to stay thick. It's not going to get watery again. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We're going to mix this really well before we start adding our liquids to it. Coconut flour can be a little lumpy, so just got to make sure I get the majority of the lumps out of there. But particularly get your flour and your cornstarch mixed into the remaining ingredients. All right. All in all, we're going to be adding 2¼ cups of milk. For right now, I'm just going to add a little bit of it and stir it together to make a paste. It's going to help me get all those lumps out of there. But you know what? I'd eat a chocolate pie with lumps in it. I don't have a problem doing that, but we're having dinner guests tonight, so I'm trying to get the lumps out. But if I turn the lights out, they might not see the lumps. Turn the lights down real low and make it look like you're trying to, set the mood, set the ambiance. But really, you're just hiding the fact that you got a lumpy pie. All right, to this, I am going to add my egg yolks, so we can get those mixed in before adding the rest of the liquid. Otherwise, they tend to kind of float around, and you don't want to cook an egg yolk in a hot mixture and then discover later, oh, it's still whole. That would not be good. All right, we're going to turn our burner on over there. Turn it on about medium, and we're going to keep stirring this because with the eggs and the milk in there, it has the possibility of scorching if you just don't pay attention to it. So we're going to pay close attention to it. And when I say keep stirring it, I don't mean continually stirring. There's a difference. Keep stirring it means pay attention to it. When you know it's getting hot, when it starts bubbling, that's when you know to keep stirring it, to keep it moving off the bottom, to keep it from scorching. Now, I've never made a chocolate pie with coconut sugar. I think since I stopped eating so much sugar, I haven't even had a coconut pie. Or, sorry, not coconut. This is chocolate. I've not had a chocolate pie since I started not eating as much sugar. And I've never used coconut sugar in making it. So it might have a coconut flavor to it, and that wouldn't be bad at all. I was talking to a friend the other day, and they used to live in Greece. And she and her husband went to a local town at kind of an upscale boutique and did this little cooking demonstration for some Greek food for these customers there. And I asked her the other day, a few days ago, I said, how did that go? And she goes, well, it went really well. She said, Clay did most of the talking. And I said, oh, I could see him doing that. He's probably really good at interacting with the audience. And she said, well, I can't cook and talk at the same time. And I said, well, don't worry, I can't cook and talk at the same time. And she looked at me kind of funny. She goes, that's a little hard for somebody who has a YouTube channel where they cook. And I went, I know, but I'm forever saying the wrong thing. I'll say it, and it could be 2 hours later, and I'll get to replaying all this in my mind and go, you know what? I think I said the wrong thing. Ugh, that's so annoying. So sometimes we can cut that stuff out, and a lot of times my husband will come to me and say, you realize you said this? I'm like, it's okay, just leave it in there, because it's really not that big of a deal to me. I just don't want somebody to be confused and go, well, she said to add this to it, or don't do that, or do this. But it's not a matter of, I want you to think that everything's so perfect and I say perfect things all the time, because it's very clear I don't. But when I make a mistake, it's funny to me, but I just don't want it to mess somebody up as far as them understanding a recipe. Okay, you can tell this is starting to thicken up. There's a little bit of it clinging to my whisk. And, of course, there were bubbles in it. I walk off to check the mail and come back, and, of course, it's bubbling. I had to show you my little buddy down there. She sits right by my feet. She's my helper. So basically this is a chocolate pudding. You're putting chocolate pudding in a pie crust, putting a meringue on it, and you call it a pie. That's what chocolate cream pie is. But again, you don't want to scorch it. So when it gets to this point, you want to keep it moving. Do not stop stirring it. You can lower your heat just a little bit if you need to. I have mine down just below medium. But keep moving your spatula, or not your spatula, moving your whisk all along the bottom of the pan. Don't miss the corners. Just keep moving it. And when it gets thick enough, we'll take it off the heat and we'll add our butter and our vanilla to it. Okay, that's looking pretty perfect right there. I'm going to take it over here, and I'll turn this around a little bit. And you can still see it up there. And we're going to add, I transferred my vanilla into my little jar again from my big vodka bottle where I make my vanilla from. We're going to add a half a teaspoon of vanilla. With my medicine dropper. If you've never used one of these to measure things like vanilla, things that you don't normally need more than a teaspoon for most recipes, those come in handy. Just contact your local pharmacist and they'd be happy to advertise their pharmacy on it for you. All right, and 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter. When my Nana was still living, I swear I think she made one of these like once a week. I'm not even exaggerating when I say she probably made a chocolate pie once a week, because my uncle lived next door on the property just adjacent to their home. And he and his wife and family, and she would do anything to, if food is your love language, when somebody's coming over, you just make what they love. And food is my love language, and I love to do the same thing. So maybe I got that from her. But she would make a chocolate pie for my Uncle Randy, and I swear I would walk in the kitchen, she'd be making a crust. I could walk in the other room to put up a load of clothes, or I don't know, go clean the bathroom, or just go put my makeup on, or put some clothes on, whatever. Come back and she'd have the pie made. I don't know how she did it so fast. It was unstinking believable. She was the fastest pie maker ever, and she did not use a pre-made mix. She's doing it just like I did. Just exactly like I did. Okay, once that butter melts and that vanilla gets incorporated in there, this is perfect. And do not taste it at this point. Whatever you do, do not taste it, because then you'll have to wind up making more filling to go in another pie, because you will eat this whole thing. All right, we're going to let that set there to cool. We're going to go over and make our meringue, so we can put the filling in the crust, put the meringue on the filling, and then we're going to pop it back in the oven. We'll turn the oven back on to toast the meringue on the top. So let's go make some meringue. All right, back over here at the island now. We have our 5 egg whites in our bowl, coming pretty close to room temperature, I'd say. We are going to use our coconut sugar to sweeten this. Use what you have, but I'm using coconut sugar. And I'm just going to put about 2 tablespoons of coconut sugar in here. I think I want to whip some of it up first, just a bit, just so it won't go overboard. Make sure, here's the most important thing about making meringue, anything with egg whites, make sure your beater, anything that you have, is completely free of any fat at all. No butter, no egg yolk, no coconut oil, no lotion from your hands. Whatever you have, do not get any fat in there, or your eggs are not going to whip up like they're supposed to. I may have experience with this. I won't say. All right, let's whip these up just a little bit. All right, let's put a couple of tablespoons of coconut sugar in there. And I've never used coconut sugar for this, so might completely ruin it. I don't know. But we're going to give it a shot, because if I'm going to eat it, this is what I want in it. We're also going to put 1/4 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar in this. This does not add flavor to it. Do not fear. Does not add flavor. It's just science behind the sugar, the egg whites, keeping it a good consistency, yada, yada, yada. Too smart for me. I read it one time, and then it apparently didn't, all of it didn't stick, except for you never want to use too much. You can use too much of it. All right, I'm going to add just a little bit of vanilla, not a lot. And let's whip these up to their full capacity. Okay, I'll tell you right now, this is not what it looks like when you use white sugar, because apparently the coconut sugar has fat in it. So all that being said about your beaters, and then I add sugar to it that has fat in it. But I was thinking of that before I put it in there, and then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to see, because it's not like this is going to be sold, and it's not going to show. So I'm going to keep whipping it a little bit more, but we're just going to go with it, and it'll be fine. It'll be delicious. Okay, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Yep, that's fine. All right, let's get our filling and put it in our pie. Then we'll spread our meringue on there. A lot of times you'll have people say, now when you set your filling aside, put a piece of cellophane wrap on it to keep that skin from forming on it. Don't do that. Yeah, let's not put plastic on something hot. That wouldn't be a good idea. That wouldn't be a safe food idea. Just let that skin form on there and it's okay. It'll be delicious. Meringue isn't very sweet at all, so I would say to change one thing and probably add about 3 tablespoons of sugar to this. I might go ahead and add that in there just for the sake of I want it to taste good. Yeah, it doesn't have a very sweet taste to it. I'm going to go ahead and add some more in it. Meringue's pretty forgiving as far as adding stuff to it later, as long as it's something that the eggs can handle. All right, let's get that whipped in. Now we'll see how that tastes. Yeah, that's better. All right, let me get a spatula. Let me pull this over here so you can actually see what I'm doing. Now the filling is still a little bit warm. It's not super hot. But if this were regular sugar, I think it might fluff up a little fuller, but I could be wrong. The brown meringue's kind of cool though. It makes it look like, hey, you know what this is? It's chocolate, because, you know, chocolate's brown. So a lot of times you'll cut into a pie not knowing what it is because it's hidden with meringue. You want to take your meringue all the way to the edge and let it touch the crust on the edge, just giving it a seal. You ever gone to those restaurants where they have that meringue stacked up so tall and you're like, what's even in there? But I mean, I like meringue, okay. Now as a kid, no way. That was cow slobbers, and you were not convincing me to eat it. It was not the texture of something that was supposed to go in your mouth. But it's fine. I'll eat it now. It's fine. It's not my favorite part, but I'll eat it. But to have a pie that's mostly meringue, I would never understand that. So the only reason that we have this much is because we had 5 eggs, and then we had 5 egg whites, and that's why it's so big. All right, we're going to pop this back in the oven. I have the oven set at, have it set at 350, so we'll pop this in there. We're going to cook it until that's kind of toasted on the top. I'm going to say for 15 minutes, but the lower and slower it cooks, the more toasted the meringue is. If you cook it at a high heat for really fast, it's going to toast the tips of the meringue, but the inside is not going to be cooked near as much. So I'd rather have mine just a pretty brown toasted all over. So we'll see how it turns out. We'll come right back. Okay, this doesn't happen very often, but I think it's done before our timer goes off. So I'm kind of excited. Okay, still 3 minutes and 25 seconds left on our timer, and I'm taking it out because this looks perfect to me. Does it look perfect to you? I'm going to put my leftover lunch in there so I can use that residual heat from the oven. Get that heated up. Hey, thanks for joining us today. I know it's kind of a long, drawn-out process, but if you've never made a chocolate cream pie, you see what it's like. It's basically pudding in a pie shell. So here's Zoe. She's making sure I'm doing everything right. Recipe is in the description of the video. If you've not subscribed to our channel, I encourage you to do that. Check out the other videos, see if it's something you're interested in. It's all about making better decisions in something you want and you're going to eat already. So if it's something you need, you may as well make it something good for you, because food is medicine. You've heard that said before, but I'm telling you, it is the honest to goodness truth. So again, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to sharing something again with you real soon. See ya. Bye.